It's an outrage. It is a total outrage. There's been another shooting, this time in Bloomington, Minnesota, and I had to speak out about this. 12-year-old little girl shot by a man in the head while protecting her 18-month-old baby cousin. She shielded her 18-month-old baby cousin with her body. The baby was safe, but she was shot in the head. Now she's in critical condition, and who knows, as of right now, she may already be dead. And why did this happen? Why this senseless act of violence? Well, 12-year-old girl happened to be black, and her attacker was a white man. And you should be aware that this interracial violence is escalating, and there's always going to be scumbags in this world who would shoot a child. There's always going to be scumbags who would shoot a child over race, something that they're totally innocent of and have no clue about yet in their lives. They haven't been taught all the rhetoric yet about race, and they're innocent of it, and yet they're being shot in the head. There's always going to be guys like this. There's always going to be douchebags that would shoot a child. There's always going to be people who are sick in the head, who are mentally ill and severely mentally ill, and that would shoot a child in the head. Always. There's always going to be people like this. Always. Your actions have consequences. And the only actions that you can control are your own. You're living with billions of other people, and you can't control their actions at all. You can't control their actions at all. You can't control what crazy people do. This guy was a gun nut. They found hundreds, maybe thousands of guns in his home and thousands of rounds of ammunition. He had enough guns and ammo to kill his whole neighborhood. And he said that he hated all children. This was a statement he made to the police, that he hated all children. So I guess he was saying that so they knew he wasn't singling them out for their race, because then he knew he'd be charged with a hate crime. They looked in his garage and they found his dead wife. He thought the children had witnessed him murdering his wife, who he killed because they weren't having enough sex, and they had an argument over it. He wanted more sex and she didn't, so he killed her. Little children were made to suffer and to pay for his sexual proclivities. Sick man. And so, whose actions can you control? Do you remember? You can only control your actions. Can't control what the elite do. Can't control what the crazies do. You can't control what the president does or how the president people react to the president. You can't control that either. The only thing you can control is you. So this is a message to the rioters. You may have inspired racial hate. And you can't control BLM either. They're going to do what they want to do. They think that body counts are nothing, that you have to crack a few eggs to make an omelet, that there's going to be a body count in for the glorious cause of communism and the great war that is to come, where the people seize power, which they will not. They will not. There'll always be corrupt leaders in control of everyone. It's just the way the world works. It's the way humans are. Tribal creatures, and we always put someone in charge. Always. And not going to abolish money. That's not going to happen. So the rich guys are going to be in charge. They're going to have all the power over whoever becomes the de facto leader. Just a thought, something to think about. Only person you can control is you. By not participating in the riots, you will lower the body count. Trust me, these mentally ill guys will go back to their garages or go back in their houses, put their guns away when the violence ends, when the rioting in the streets ends, when the looting stops. You may not like it. It may be an unpleasant thing to say or an unpleasant truth to have to face. But the fact is that's the truth. Now, about this Rittenhouse guy. Rittenhouse. Dumb kid, right? Dumb kid comes to an anti-gun rally, an anti-police rally, saying Blue Lives Matter, carrying an AR-15. Well, you don't come to the anti-gun, anti-police rally with people that you know hate guns with an AR-15 unless you want to get attacked. Again, the principle applies. You can only control yourself. So there's always, when you get a big, big crowd of people, there's always going to be someone who's mentally ill in that crowd, or several that are mentally ill. There's always going to be extremists, and maybe Antifa people, maybe anarchists and communists that like to cause chaos. Some people who are willing to sacrifice their lives for the glorious cause. There's people that feel very, very strongly about their beliefs. And you're walking into that crowd with an AR-15. It's like walking into a civil rights rally wearing a Ku Klux Klan costume. That's the sort of thing, wearing Ku Klux Klan or wearing your hood, wearing a white hood into a civil rights rally. You're going to get beaten black and blue. Even though he was carrying a gun. Now this is something for the rioters. Never attack a guy with an AR-15. He probably knows how to use it, and it turned out this kid was an excellent shot. Not only did he shoot to death the guy that was right in front of him, but a guy off to one side whipped out a handgun to shoot him with. Shot the guy right in the wrist. Guy was several feet away, maybe a few yards away. Shot him right in the wrist. As soon as he whipped out the gun, he spotted the gun, spotted the guy, he shot him right in the wrist. The guy went away with an injury and lost his handgun. Not smart at all to attack a guy with an AR-15, but there's always going to be people who are willing to attack physically a guy with an AR-15 who think to themselves somewhere in their convoluted minds, I'll bet I could get this gun away from him. I'll bet I could get the jump on him and surprise him with an attack. He's not expecting me to fight back. I bet I can get him. But these guys weren't smart at all, because they chased Rittenhouse for several blocks. They chased him for several blocks. The guy was trying to get away. He was trying to get away, and they chased him for several blocks. Then he fell, and they were upon him like cheese on a grilled cheese sandwich. They were jumping on him. He shot them. He fell on the ground. He fell on his back with his gun upright, and he shot them. Don't attack a guy with an AR-15. Sorry, you don't do that. The kid was like a soldier. He was so good, and he killed them. So it wasn't smart at all to attack him. Rittenhouse was stupid. Like I said, there's always going to be someone in the crowd who's willing to attack. There's always going to be someone in the crowd who's willing to attack. You don't go out with a gun unless you're prepared and thinking in your head that you're going to use it. Just like an active shooter. Just like an active shooter, that you're planning to kill somebody. You're planning to use the gun. That you're planning to use the weapon. He was trying to defend businesses, but there was no defending the businesses. That's something you leave to the police. Not smart. You can't control the other people in the crowd that might attack you, who might have sympathies that are against yours. You can only control yourself by not showing up with the gun in the first place. Yeah, they chased him for several blocks. Just a terrible situation what's happening. And I'm sure you all realize this. I'm sure you know this by now. The children are acting out the parents' beliefs. And not just the parents' beliefs. They're acting out the adults' beliefs in their lives. The adults in their lives, they're acting out the beliefs of the adults. So the children are paying the price for the adults. It's wrong. It's totally wrong. There's these armchair philosophers sitting back in their prestigious professorial offices. You know, they've got a leather swivel chair, leather coated swivel chair, and swiveling around it, and they've got bookshelves all around. They've got shelves full of books. And they've thought deeply on the subject and share their opinions with their students. And then their students go out and act it out on the streets. And they get killed. And they pay the price for what these professors are doing. So these armchair philosophers, whoever they may be, regardless of who these armchair philosophers may be, and other philosophizing from a safe vantage point, the children are paying the price for your philosophy. They're acting it out every day on the streets now in America. That's sick. What have I ever done except tell you to get away while you can, to get far, far away from the action? City's a lost cause. Just get away. It's gone. It's done. The city might be a bomb target. I mean, the threat of India and China and the U.S. hasn't gone away. Did I tell you about what's happening in the South China Sea, where the U.S. is provoking China? Yeah, the city might be gone. There might be nothing left but a few suburbs and the countryside. You'd even have to flee from the suburbs right away. Get away before suburbs get bombed too. It's only a matter of time before something happens. I don't know what, but something's going to happen. Should know about what's going on with China. China had a crop failure. They had floods. Severe flooding swept through their country, drowned all the rice. Thousands of miles of rice destroyed. What is their reaction? They're telling their people, please eat less. Please eat less. Please conserve what you're eating. Well, that sort of kind of makes sense. Oh, wait! I forgot something. China is the richest country on earth, other than the U.S. They make everything. But for decades, there's been a steady flow of money from the U.S. to China. Steady flow of money, not never-ending flow of money from the U.S. to China. So why don't they just buy their people more food? I'm sure there's food. I'm sure, India grows a lot of rice and Thailand grows a lot of rice. I'm sure they could scrounge up some food somewhere else, and I'm sure they've got storehouses full of food. Oh, wait. There might be another reason why they want people to eat less. War rationing. Getting people ready. They're priming people. They're getting people ready for war. Same here in the U.S. Trump is preparing his people for war. He doesn't have good things to say about China at all, and they're both countries are playing war games and getting into altercations. They are preparing for warfare. They are preparing for war. Simple fact of the matter is just true. The two countries are preparing for war. It's the U.S. and China now. It's not China and India anymore, although that's still going on. China and India, that conflict's still going on, but now it's the U.S. and China. And China is not happy at all about Trump's tariffs and his new rules restricting trade. They're very angry. They're very mad. They don't like their supply of money getting cut off. That made them mad. When you get a dictator angry, he retaliates. So we're the target. We're in their sights. We're in their sights now. It's just it's awful thinking about that many people dying. If you live in the city and you're listening, I recommend calling your cousin in the country, seeing if you can spend a few days and maybe have those days turn into weeks and those weeks turn into months, so you can get your own place in the country, because it is very, very, very dangerous right now. It's a very dangerous situation with the cities. Right, so you should know what is going to improve this violence that's taking place. What's going to improve this interracial violence that we're seeing? Well, the only thing that I can think that's going to improve it, maybe, that we can do other than not getting involved in the riots in the first place, it's the way we vote. Think about this. Democrats were in control of Minneapolis for almost 50 years. Almost 50 years they were in control of Minneapolis. We've had a Democratic governor for at least 20 years. So, with Democrats in control, what did they do to prevent violence? Well, everything happened on their watch. It happened on their watch. All of this violence happened on their watch. It happened on their watch. They were in control. They let it happen. And now, people are showing that are Democrats, all the Democrats, are showing their support for Black Lives Matter, despite Black Lives Matter's involvement in all of this. They believe in the slogan. See, the slogan gets them every time because they believe in the slogan Black Lives Matter, but they have to realize it's an organization, and what has that organization done? They've promoted interracial violence, and they've led to the deaths of these innocent children. It's just true. It's just true. They're responsible. Your actions have consequences. Black Lives Matter is never going to take responsibility because they don't care if a few people die for the glorious cause. That's how they think. They don't care if people die. It's a war. It's a war. So these Democrats are pandering to Black Lives Matter, supporting Black Lives Matter. Some of them are even talking about defunding the police. And I'll tell you something, Biden, he's used the word systemic racism. And I wrote to him and asked him very specifically, what do you mean by systemic racism? Please explain it. So he answered me. He did it. I think it was CBS. It may have been NBC, but I think it was CBS. He gave an interview, and he explained it in great detail, and he explained it just the way my professors explained it. He understands systemic racism very well. He understands it very well, and he said that basically racism is everywhere, and it's in everything. It's not just the police. It's our government. It's businesses. It's everyone. So he believes it. He believes in, and that was the philosophy of Black Lives Matter and their justification for the riots. That was their justification for the riots. And check out the description. You'll see some links explaining Black Lives Matter's position, their official position. You should know. This information is being suppressed by the mainstream media. There is a definite liberal slant to it, and I have to admit it now. I have to face the facts and admit that there's a liberal slant. Now, as to the subject of Biden, he may not just maintain the status quo. He may actually do worse. He may actually do worse and encourage even more violence, even more rioting, even more hate, and even more looting. Now, people did not react well to Trump going there at all, but sorry to say, but the only way you're going to stop these riots is to send out the National Guard and quell the violence right away, nip it in the bud, right in the streets. It's the only thing that's going to stop it at this point. I can see that now, because that's the only thing that did stop it was quelling it. The National Guard and the police. They had to send out all the police from all the surrounding cities, plus the National Guard, to stop what was happening in Kenosha. And this time the governor here, Governor Walz, responded more quickly and quelled the violence in the streets after the supposed police involvement in the shooting that was a suicide. It was a murder-suicide. So, Biden has been, and his son have been involved in some scandals. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the scandals. Biden's son, Hunter, not Beau, not the older boy that died of brain cancer, but Hunter, was involved in the Ukraine, and you've all heard about this, all know about this, but you may not have read all of the details. And I tried to be fair, I tried to be honest, I tried to see both sides, and read what both sides had to say. And I'll be honest with you, after I read both sides, I was more convinced by the conservative side than the liberal side, because I did not find the arguments of the liberal side convincing. Basically all they did was rehash some of the events which had no pertinence to whether there was guilt or not. They said, well, the Ukraine government said they were innocent, so it must be, said Hunter was innocent, so it must be so, and there was a review, and they found him innocent. Like, I'm buying that. Like, the government that came into power wasn't corrupt. And like, Biden couldn't have had a part in that. After all, Obama was in charge at the time, and Biden was the VP. Biden had been assigned to the Ukraine. So, Hunter worked. So the reason that I found this not as convincing was basically they said, you're wrong, end of discussion. It's been proven he's innocent, that Hunter is innocent, and you're wrong, and we disagree with you, so you must be wrong. End of discussion. That was basically, plus some details. They fleshed it out with some details, but there was nothing convincing. There were no salient arguments. There was nothing convincing that would have convinced one of Hunter's innocence. It was just them saying he was innocent, and that the Ukraine government, which could have been corrupt, found him innocent. Okay, so what happened? Hunter worked for one of the most corrupt bosses on earth for a few years. It might have been several years, I'm not sure. I think it was a few years. And while he was there, Biden got a public official fired who would have been in charge of prosecuting this corrupt boss of Hunter's. So he protected Hunter's boss, and Hunter was working for this very corrupt boss for many years. And Biden actually bragged about it. He was like, that SOB, I won't say it. I won't say what he said, but that SOB, he got fired. So he fired this official that was in charge of investigating and prosecuting this very corrupt boss that was found guilty on corruption charges and jailed. How can you work for a corrupt boss very closely for that many years and not commit some malfeasance yourself? And if so, how can Joe be completely innocent of what his son did? First of all, he raised him. So However he raised him thinking it was okay to work for a corrupt boss and do whatever corrupt thing you feel like. But second of all, Biden helped out his son by firing this guy that would have prosecuted his corrupt boss. The corrupt boss finally got it anyway because the president of the Ukraine was hated. He got tossed out and a new regime took over. And then they got rid of this corrupt boss of Hunter's. So the boss got it anyway. Hunter walked away smelling like a rose. Came back to the U.S., lived the high life, evaded some child support. Story of corruption. So you actually expect me to believe that despite whatever his adult son may have done, Joe was completely innocent. I find that very, very difficult to believe. He helped out his son Hunter by helping Hunter's boss. He was protecting them. I guess that's what parents do, is protect their children no matter how corrupt or how bad they may become. They don't let them take the fall for their actions because they love them. But what happened was Trump wanted to investigate this. He wanted very, very badly to investigate. And he did this with Hillary Clinton. He made a big deal out of her emails, out of Hillary Clinton's emails. And just saying that Ivanka did the same thing that Hillary did. She took state secrets and sent emails that were possibly potentially hacked with state secrets that could have been read by anyone. Ivanka did this. So she did the same thing Hillary did. He called her Crooked Hillary over and over and over. Crooked Hillary, Crooked Hillary, Crooked Hillary, Crooked Hillary. He still calls her Crooked Hillary at his rallies. And people eat it all up because they hate Hillary Clinton. She's just so stiff and unemotional and they don't like her. So they just don't like her personally. So then he calls her Crooked Hillary, and then Ivanka does the same thing. So that was a big deal. But he got impeached because he asked Putin to not only did Putin hack the election, not only did Russia hack the election and hackers from Russia interfere in our election to influence the vote, that they influence the computers that read the vote, tally the votes, but also they dug up the dirt. They hacked Hillary's emails for her, and that's how he got impeached. Well, he did it again. And this time he made no secret of it. He admitted openly to the press that he did this. And he even broadcasted, he said it on TV, he came on TV and asked Russia, and I heard the footage, I saw this footage. He asked Russia to dig up some dirt on Biden for him. And apparently the Russians dug up the dirt on what happened in the Ukraine. And the Democrats were so mad. They were so mad that he uncovered this corruption that they're trying to impeach him again. They want to impeach him two times. And he just wants to uncover the corruption. He couldn't resist. Who could resist when it's a case of corruption? But because he asked a foreign government to participate, which is interference in our elections, the Dems are going after him. And they're outraged, they're expressing the fake outrage. You've seen Nancy Pelosi. I can't believe this man. I can't believe what an outrage. They're always so outraged and angry. Because it's yay for our side, right? Yay for our side. They don't even make a secret out of it anymore that it's yay for our side. It's just expressing false outrage because they're so into their side. It's like their favorite football team, right? Only there's only 2 teams for all of America, which is really, really bad for our country, as I've mentioned before. So, Trump, really bad. Biden, even worse. What do you think Biden's going to do? If you happen to be overweight or obese, like I am, watch the YouTube video in the description. Watch the video. He calls a man fat, and he suggests that they should jog together. He calls the man a damned liar. He just attacks him, and everybody cheers for him. All these Democrats, just brainless, totally brainless, are cheering for him and on his side the whole time. On his side the whole time, even when he's calling this man fat and being a bigot. They cheer for this man the whole time. He just wanted to know. He just wanted to know what was going on. He just wanted to know what was going on, and he got called fat. I'm not voting for someone that hates me because I'm fat. No way. Trump never hated me because I was fat. He hates a lot of people, but he never hated me for being fat. So, another thing to think about. So, what's good for America? What's good for African Americans? What's good for children? Well, would be really, really good if we could stop the violence on the streets. And it would be really good if we could prevent more deaths, more innocent children from dying, all the innocent children who are dying. Trump hasn't done much so far. Hasn't done much so far. Here's another thing you should know. Although he claimed that he can't do anything unless the governors invite him in or call him out, that there's nothing he can do. But here's an interesting thing. There's sort of a war going on right now that you should know about within the Libertarian Party, which I did not know about. There's a lot of people in the Libertarian Party who are prominent speakers. They're prominent speakers. They're spokesmen for the party. Bloggers. Podcasters. Political pundits. And they have taken the position that they are pro-riot. Yes, it's true. They are on the side of the rioters. They believe that it's a glorious cause, and that they've been arguing for years against police violence, and that if you oppose rioting, you're a racist, and we should call you out on your BS and boot you out of the Libertarian Party. But if you actually go into forums or chat rooms, see what real libertarians have to say, they're not for rioting at all. In fact, they think that both sides are wrong. They think the police are wrong. The police are wrong to be attacking people. And at the same time, the rioters are wrong. They think rioting is the wrong approach, and they don't like small businesses or even big businesses having to pay or suffer the price for what the police have done. It doesn't seem fair to them. Like, two wrongs don't make a right. So if you look at what the libertarians that are actually the mainstream believe, it's not the same as what these pundits believe. Now there's going to be a little war where for a while the pundits are going to try to get these people declared racists and get them tossed out of the party. But what's going to happen eventually is that they're going to be outnumbered by the majority of the libertarians. And the pundits are going to get booted out of the party. Now, they can't really boot them out of a party. Anyone can choose to join a party, but they're going to be ignored. They're not going to be pundits anymore. No one's going to pay any attention to them because they're promoting rioting right now. They're promoting rioting. They're supporting Black Lives Matter. They're supporting the rioters. Not protesters, rioters. There's a distinction. There's a difference. Although some of the protesters become rioters at night. Like, they all stick around. And the majority of protesters provide the cover. They provide the crowd and they provide the cover while the rioters do the looting and the burning. And then they dance in the streets. And the protesters take photographs, promote it on Instagram and Facebook with hashtags about the police. So, very tense situation. And we have to think about what kind of leadership we want. Is it Biden? Is it Trump? Is there really even a lesser of two evils in this case? Trump said terrible things about Mexicans. I mean, he said that these illegal immigrants were racist and rapists and murderers. He called them rapists and murderers. And then he was eating his taco bowl and saying, "I love Hispanics." People were right to be mad at him. I can't believe he said things like that they were rapists and murderers. I mean, there's rapists and murderers in every group of people. There's white murderers and white rapists. You're going to find rapists and murderers in any group, but the vast majority of illegal immigrants are good, honest, decent, law-abiding citizens. They don't commit crimes. They're escaping from crime in their own countries. A lot of them came to America because they're anti-communist, which is not the same as being a fascist. Like right now, the communists have set this up that they're in a war. It's a war. There's only two types of people in this world. Two types of people. Communists and fascists. So the communists are calling themselves anti-fascist. Because obviously, anybody who's not a communist is a fascist, right? There is no middle. There is no middle. There's no middle ground. And people who are in the middle are wishy-washy. Can't make up their minds one way or the other. So, it's only communists and fascists, and they've chosen to be communists. And they're opposed to those fascists. Pretty extreme. On the other side of the coin is actually people. I'll tell you something right now. You want people to admit that they are racist, to admit it. And if they deny it, then they've proven that they're racist. Well, guess what? The people who are not denying being racist, who are declaring their racism, are the real racists. This is not a good or positive thing to do or to be or to say that you are a racist. Never say it. Never say you're a racist. Never say it and never believe it. Because the people who are saying it are saying, well, everyone's a racist. I'm just more honest about it. That's what these real racists are saying. Don't give in. Don't admit to being a racist. Don't buy it and don't promote it and don't believe it. Always, always deny. Always deny being a racist. Because the real racists are the ones who are saying, I am a racist. That's the ones that are saying it is the real racists. How many racists are there? Well, based on surveys, if you try to gauge how people feel, everyone has views on race, which may or may not be considered racist, depending on whether you believe in total color blindness. Everyone's got views on race. But the people who consider race a defining aspect, like white people who consider race a defining aspect of their existence and very important to their identities, and also people who are biased or bigoted in some way, comprise about 15% of the population and about 30% of the Republican Party. And there are racist Democrats. They are about 6% of the Democratic Party. So, real racists out there. Now they're killing innocent children who happen to be black and who committed no crime of their own and just were trying to protect the littler ones. The violence has to stop. It has to end. The only thing you can control is you. The only thing you can do is not participate in these riots anymore. Because they're young people, they don't know what happens when you riot. They should have known, but they're too young to understand and they're too young to know better. So, because they're too young to understand or to know better, they're too young to understand what kind of consequences their actions have. It's up to adults to control themselves. Quit being an armchair philosopher. Quit brainwashing the youth of America. It's just a perfect storm, right? It's a perfect storm, these armchair philosophers. These youth listening to the armchair philosophers. The police getting violent because of racial bias. Now they're saying the guy that killed George Floyd is claiming that George Floyd died of a drug overdose, which is ridiculous. He snuffed the man's life out. He snuffed George Floyd's life out. Derek Chauvin killed him by both by suffocation and by cutting off blood supply to his brain, because he had his knee on the guy's carotid artery. Right? He's a racist. He's a racist. What should be done? What should we do? People who watch YouTube, I don't think there's very many professors who bother watching YouTube. I think it's mostly young people. So, young people, if you're listening, you can help end some of the violence that's happening now by not rioting. There's crazy, crazy people out there who will just keep killing and killing and killing and killing. Just killing like a maggot. And they'll keep on killing until the riots stop and everything calms down. So, just something to think about. Just think about it. Think about whether or not you really want to contribute to all these deaths. And look at the description. There's good links about the deaths that have been taking place. There's been at least 16 killings since George Floyd, and I think this last one with the girl, the 12-year-old girl, was the 17th. Please, please do something. Stop this violence. Trump has made it the centerpiece of his campaign now. He's promising to stop the violence. He's promising that he won't defund the police. He's promising that he'll stop the riots and stop the killing. And people like that. People like that a lot. I'll tell you something. Swing voters, nowadays they call themselves independents. They call themselves independents because they don't want to be affiliated with one or the other political party. They want to be free to vote for the best candidate, no matter what the circumstances. They comprise the majority. The middle is still there. We've been lied to about people shifting apart like this. The middle's still there. They've just rebranded themselves because of moderates being condemned. The word moderate was a dog whistle to these liberals. And they went in and attacked moderates. So now they're calling themselves independents. And these independents can swing from one side to the other. And 40% may seem like a minority, but then if you consider that there's 30% liberals and 20% Republicans, you'll see that the moderates are actually the larger. The independents are the larger group. And some of them are left-leaning and some of them are right-leaning. Right now, the country is split right down the middle. It's just like the last election. 45% are for Trump, 46% are for Biden, so he's got a 1% lead. The election could go either way. All Trump would have to do is clean up his act, clean up his speech, maybe even present himself as the great uniter. And he could cinch it. He could cinch the election really easy. Biden hasn't done much. He hasn't been speaking or going to public engagements. He sent Kamala Harris around. And Biden has new ads. Something about Black Lives Matter in his ads. I'm not sure what he said, but he's promising to make America great again also. And so it's a war to the finish between the two corrupt guys, one corrupt and one even more corrupt. These are some corrupt guys. We've never had politicians quite so corrupt before that were presidents. But getting involved with foreign governments and colluding with them, manipulating, and if your son is involved with corrupt bosses in a foreign land, and you're pulling the strings to help your son's corrupt boss, and then trying to cover it up, and getting angry and calling people fat, and it's just a mess. These guys they're a total mess. It's in a shambles. And this was what the elite wanted. They wanted to handpick these guys for us. So we had no choice between Tweedledum and Tweedledee, and we had no choice but to pick from the most corrupt apples in the bunch, the rottenest apples in the barrel. only thing we can do is vote for a third or fourth party. That's the only choice we have, really, to get rid of these guys. Just something to think about. Just something to think about. I wouldn't fault you at all for voting for the lesser of two evils, whichever one you think is less evil. But they're both evil. So who are you going to vote for if they're both evil? You're going to just choose not to vote? The only way a real revolution is going to happen, real revolution, is if we vote for a third or fourth party. Whether that's the Libertarian Party or the Green Party. There needs to be a shift. It would be nice if there were an independent running this year, like the year that Ross Perot ran, but it doesn't seem like there's going to be an independent this year, other than Kanye West, and he's not going to take the vote. So, best person to vote for is really one of the other parties. We have a couple available to us, Libertarians and the Green Party. Just vote for a third or fourth party. Don't vote for these corrupt guys. Send a message to Washington. Send a message to Washington. Don't vote for any of these guys. Just vote them out of office. Vote for the Libertarian choice or the Green Party choice. Don't vote for these guys, no matter what it is you believe. Just something to think about. Just think about whether you want the status quo. Not only is Biden the status quo, he might even be worse than the status quo. He might, think about it, China wants him. They're promoting him right now. He might institute a major transfer of wealth from the U.S. to China and reverse everything that Trump has done and then some. And then China will be able to make war on us, which they've been wanting to bury us too, just like Khrushchev. They've been wanting this a long time, and they finally gotten to the point where they can achieve their objective. I'm Sarah Jane Alpha, signing off. Don't let your country perish. Don't let your loved ones and your fellow countrymen perish in a fiery flames. Anything that will slow down China even a little bit is a good thing. And you may not like war games, and I don't like them, and I don't like them antagonizing China, but China started it. China started it by doing these military exercises and basically taking over the South China Sea, which they feel belongs to them, and just claiming it for themselves, just taking over and daring anyone to challenge them since they're nuclear armed, just like what happened with the Iron Curtain, right? So the South China Sea war exercises by both countries, U.S. and China, in the South China Sea. Scary, but China they should be afraid of us. They should be afraid of retaliation from us, and our military might possibly deter them. It's a war strategy. It's not pretty. It's not nice. Makes everyone nervous. No one wants to go to war, but it might deter them. Something to think about. And who's sending money to China? That's another thing to think about. I'll see you next time.